The Police Minister Bheki Cele, you've been watching that briefing here on Newsfeed. He announced this afternoon 215 police officers have lost their lives as a result of COVID-19. He says 16,539 officers have been infected. The Minister was briefing on his department's enforcing of regulations under lockdown level 1. He's also warning the public that police visibility will continue. He hit out at liquor outlets, he says, are breaking the lockdown regulations by still serving liquor after the curfew starts at midnight. And then he also went on to say that the Police Ministry is now publishing the telephone details, the cell phone details of every single police station commander. The spokesperson for the police union, POPCRU, is Richard Mamabolo. Richard, good afternoon to you. First, your reaction to the fact that over 200 police officers have now died from COVID-19. It shows you how dangerous policing is during the time of this pandemic.
Most definitely, it's quite scary that we've got such high numbers, and in fact, even the infection rate does show that there will be a lag in terms of what police need, the role that they need to play in this level 1. You remember that the minister speaks about police visibility, but it cannot become that possible when you consider that over 16,000 police officers are infected, and of course they have to be isolated at this time, so they would not be allocated within their posts. However, we also think that it's quite important that besides just giving out the figures and also giving out contacts of station commanders, they need to obviously deal with the underlying challenges. We've had many incidents where you get, for example, a staff complement of about 5 individuals within different police stations where they have to look after, communities of around 30,000 people. And in most cases where there had been attacks on police, you would find that only 2 out of the 5 do patrol matters. So the response rate is not sufficient at the moment. Those are obviously underlying challenges which the SAPS needs to look into.
All right, I mean, you're talking about serious problems with policing. It really goes down to a different point around policing, though, which is that policing lockdown level 1 is very different to lockdown level 5. A lockdown level 1 actually requires a lot more nuance, a lot more judgment. In some ways, it actually might be harder to police than, let's say, level 2 or level 3.
That is correct. You know, with level 1, obviously, people have got more access to go out to the street, and of course, we're expecting that the crime rate will obviously increase because a lot of people can then move around. That would obviously mean that you would need more police officers to ensure that there is sufficient visibility, which is currently an impossibility due to the fact that I just raised about the level of police who are currently infected. But besides that, you know, even though we did not have such high levels of infections, we will still have underlying challenges within different police stations. So that is why we're saying that despite the short-term interventions that we welcome, of course, there needs to be long-term interventions which would ensure that we get more staff capacity within the SAPS.
I mean, within all of this, you've got more capacity in the SAPS that you're asking for. How big a problem is alcohol? We know the Police Minister Bheki Cele has strong views on this. He hit out again on this today. Are you finding that liquor-related offences are still what are confronting your members?
Look, they do happen from time to time. I think we will probably get a clearer picture in the next weeks because that is when the level 1 will start being implemented. I think. And the fact that we've seen in the past that there are many roadblocks and there are many car accidents does demonstrate that at times there are certain measures that need to be taken in ensuring that the selling of alcohol is obviously regulated thoroughly.
And Richard, I do need to ask you about what's been happening around El Dorado Park, the Nathaniel Juli's case. You'll be aware of it. 3 police officers accused of his murder. He, of course, was just 16. Today, quite dramatic in court, a bail application by these 3 police officers. One officer, Kayleen Whiteboy, is accusing another officer of threatening her with death. She says that she was the person who pulled the trigger, resulting in the death of Juli's, but that her gun, her firearm, had rubber bullets in it beforehand when she had last used it. I mean, at the same time, the National Prosecuting Authority making the point that the community will be very, very angry if these police officers are actually released on bail. I don't know if you represent these officers or not. You're not the only union in this space. But what we're seeing is a very difficult situation, a very difficult decision for the magistrate to make.
It is definitely a serious situation. We think that obviously the courts will have to wait for the outcomes of the courts to determine the facts around this matter because there are obviously allegations that are happening. However, we want to say that it's going to be quite important that perhaps the media as well joins in a dialogue which should obviously be had between communities and police in ensuring that we build good relations. We cannot afford to have such incidents happening on a regular basis. And it's going to be quite important that through building these relationships, we then definitely get, I think it would obviously ensure that we can then work together in fighting other matters of crime instead of focusing on how police relate to communities. And some of these, I would consider them things that were not supposed to have even taken place in the first place.
I mean, the risk, of course, is that when something like this happens, every single police officer, all of your members, are viewed differently by ordinary citizens around the country. It leads to a lack of trust in the police.
That is what we're currently facing, and we want to get out of that situation. So there are many police officers who are committed to doing their work, but immediately when something like this happens, it then paints the whole police service in a wrong light. So that is something that we think should obviously be engaged about.
Richard Mamabolo, do appreciate the time. Thanks very much indeed. Spokesperson for the Police and Prison Civil Rights Union, POPCRU, representing the police service there.